grinding wheel in the court of the crimson.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to What Were We Talking About Again? The only podcast on the internet that can stand in front of the white line while the bus is in motion. I'm your host, Jake, and with me here today is a friend of mine, Charles.
Hello.
Or Charlie. What should I call you?
Charles is good.
Charles is good? Alright. Charlie Brown, do you ever get that?
Yeah, I got Charlie Brown, Charlie in the Chocolate Factory, you know, the whole lot.
I get Jake from State Farm a bunch.
Oh, no.
And that kind of sucks. But it's alright. I understand people are just trying to be friendly, so no big deal. Anyway, do you want to say anything about yourself? Introduce, like, who you are conceptually?
Well, conceptually, I'm a pretty easy person to understand. I am a math major here at Rutgers. I enjoy philosophy and anything that generally piques my interest as a person, and I do enjoy a good workout every now and then.
A good workout every now and then? That's kind of how I feel. Once every year, you know?
Once every year, that's good.
Yeah, that's how you get gains.
Exactly.
So anyway, now that we know who everyone is, allow me to introduce to you the concept of the show, because apparently my co-host never actually listened to the podcast. That's okay, it makes it better. So the way this works is we're going to start off with a little epitaph, a little story. Not epitaph, epithet, something like that.
Yeah.
A little vignette from my life, and we'll talk about something relating to it for 15 minutes, whatever. The conversation goes wherever it goes. It doesn't have to stick to that one little topic we start with. However, at the end of the 15-minute time period, the last word or phrase that I said becomes the new topic that we had to discuss. So basically every 15 minutes we had to shift focus. That's the rule. Yep. And so, without further ado, if you want to start that timer, I'm going to tell a little story about the time I found a worm in my apple.
Okay, alright, let's go.
Alright, so, allow me to set the stage for you. So we're in Rutgers, New Brunswick, if you're wondering what college this is. And there are 4 sub-campuses on this campus. There's Bush, there's College Avenue, where all the parties are. There's Livingston, and there's Cook/Douglas, so I guess it's 4.5, but Cook and Douglas are the same thing. Like, come on. So if I were to liken these to cities in the United States, I guess College Avenue would be like Manhattan. Livingston is like Boston. Bush is like the Bronx.
The Bronx?
And Cook Douglas is like bum squat Kansas. Like,
yeah, I would agree with the last one more. I feel like we're too modern for the Bronx.
Okay, well, what city would you choose?
If I were to choose a city, I'd probably say like Tokyo, because it's really advanced.
Tokyo?
Because it's packed full of people during the morning.
Yeah, I guess you're right about that. So anyway, on Cook Douglas being bum squat Kansas, they have like an actual farm there.
They do.
And by extension, they also have a great dining hall. I guess it kind of has that homemade sort of cooking vibe going on, and they decided, hey, let's just make the food here really good.
That's true. That is good.
So the food there is really good. The food at Livingston is also a top contender. People argue over whether the Livingston Dining Hall or Nielsen, the Cook Douglas Dining Hall, is better. In my opinion, Livingston has it edged out in general. But I live on Bush, so most of the time I'm at the Bush Dining Hall, and the food there tastes like nothing, and it's complete garbage.
It's worse than nothing. It's just awful.
Yeah. Like, at least it's food, you know? And I'm exaggerating a little. It's not that bad, okay? But definitely, I like to go to Livingston every once in a while to indulge in some gourmet.
Indulge in gourmet cooking.
Yeah, so, however, the Livingston Dining Hall does have one weakness, and it's that their apples are the worst apples of all time. So, I was just enjoying my breakfast one morning as I usually do, and I decided, hey, this time instead of getting like a little ring of pineapple like I usually do, I'm just gonna go and grab an apple. Big mistake.
Yeah.
Because A, these apples are gross and mushy and
They are.
completely disgusting. I don't even know how it's even possible.
Was the apple green?
Yes.
Exactly. Those are terrible apples.
It shouldn't even be legal to serve these things. Like, they're so bad.
They are probably expired.
Yeah, that's a good point. And one morning, I just bit into this apple, and I didn't enjoy it. But I figured, you know what? It's fine. It's harmless. It's just a little food. 3 bites in, and I look down at my apple, and all I see is the backside of a little worm just flopping about. So at least I think I didn't bite into the actual worm itself. You know, they say what's worse than finding a worm in your apple? Finding half a worm in your apple.
There you go.
Yeah, so I got a little disgusted at that point. Kind of didn't eat the rest of my waffle, which is fine because there was only a little bit left.
Yeah.
And I ditched that place faster than you could say ditch. So I still go to that dining hall, but I never get the apples there. In fact, I got a little bit scared of apples for a while. And then just the other day, I was in Nielsen, and those apples looked really good. So I decided, you know what, I gotta face my fears. I'm gonna try another apple. And the apples at Nielsen are actually really good and juicy and not mealy and gross.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you want apples, you go to the Nielsen dining hall, and those are the best ones. So I guess in some way, my preference for Livingston is, that's kind of a point against it. Because their apples are bad.
Yeah.
But whatever, it's just apples. I'm not trying to eat apples every single day, or else I'll never be able to get a doctor. Because they stay away. Alright, anyway, do you have any interesting experiences with the food here?
Yeah. I was at the Bush Dining Hall, and there was a pizza, and I like pesto pizza. There's a place called Blaze Pizza that makes some great pizzas, and they have pesto pizza, and I walked into the dining hall at Bush, and I saw green pizza, and I mistaked it for pesto, and I ate it, and the topping was wasabi.
No way!
They had wasabi pizza. There was no sauce. It was covered completely in wasabi.
Did you die?
I nearly collapsed from the awfulness and the spice.
See, how is it possible that there's a single person on Earth who can enjoy that pizza?
Believe it or
Wasabi
not,
is too much.
I think multiple people took slices. I don't think anyone finished it. They probably just took a bite out of it and left it on the plate.
To try it?
Yeah.
Yeah, because nobody tries it once and then goes for another slice.
It was pretty awful. It was pretty awful.
And you had to buy wasabi to make that pizza.
Oh, so much wasabi.
How profitable can it be, possibly?
Probably not. And you could definitely tell it was the low-end wasabi because it had that weird, awful taste that didn't taste any bit fresh.
You want to know the truth about wasabi? Alright, so if you were to take a guess, which is spicier? Wasabi or horseradish?
I'm guessing horseradish.
Okay, I'm just gonna tell you right off the bat, you are wrong, but it's not for the reason you think. In fact, wasabi and horseradish in the United States are the same product. That wasabi that you get with your sushi every time you order a roll of 6.
Yeah,
that's not real wasabi. It's just food-colored horseradish. And horseradish does come from the same plant as wasabi, but wasabi is a different part of it or something, and it has a much more creamy taste in reality if you actually get genuine wasabi. However, genuine wasabi is very expensive, such that they probably wouldn't package it with every single sushi roll you order. So they just use horseradish as a substitute.
Why it tastes like trash.
Yeah. And that's the sad truth about wasabi. You've probably actually never tasted it in your life. Unless you...
I really did know that.
Yeah. People get surprised by that, but it is true. You can do some research. Sometimes they'll mix it with a little bit of mustard So you might find that, and of course that makes it taste slightly different. But in general, it's a horseradish product.
All right. I gotcha.
Yeah. Spicy things are... I don't know. I'm supposed to be Hispanic and Chinese, so...
Wow, really?
Yeah, so I actually don't mind a little spice in my life. However, if it gets to the point where I'm not even, like, enjoying myself, then I don't understand the purpose of that food
It's an
item.
endurance match between you and peppers.
Yeah. Like, a hot pepper challenge. Okay, cool, I could do the hot pepper challenge, but am I actually ever gonna use that pepper, like,
No.
to cook food? No. So, it's not the greatest pepper in the world or anything.
For sure.
A nice habanero is the furthest I'll go before it just gets ridiculous.
I do like habanero peppers.
Yeah, they're good, and of course spice is good on occasion. I'm not gonna eat it every day.
I could have habanero peppers with a lot of different things.
Yeah, habaneros are good. Also, the sauce at Moe's, like I don't know what they do to it, but it is so good.
The salsa?
However, yeah, they have like 4 kinds of salsa.
Oh, okay.
And not at our Moe's, the one in the student center, but at every other Moe's in the chain, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
They have like a
definitely.
little salsa station with 4 different kinds of salsas. One's the tomatillo, which is the green one, and then they have 2 red ones. One's mild and one's like slightly spicy. And then the last one is so spicy it makes me want to cry, but I love it.
So you do enjoy the pain of spice.
I do. Okay, I guess you're right about that. But that still doesn't approach like ghost pepper
Well,
levels of ridiculous.
Casually eating ghost peppers requires a fantastic palate just to like hold that.
I don't even think it's possible. I think the people who enjoy ghost peppers are lying
They
to
probably
look cool.
lost their taste buds.
Yeah, or that.
Yeah.
That's also a
It's just
distinct possibility. Because your tongue will go numb if you eat spicy enough food.
That is true.
And if you just do that repeatedly, like, you probably will lose some of your tasting ability, and that's kind of sad.
That's probably why they continue to eat the hot pepper, because that's the only thing that gets through.
Yeah, that's so depressing. It's like
Exactly.
they built too high of a tolerance for taste in general, and they
Yes.
can't enjoy normal people food.
It's like you have a slice of cake, gotta have it with some ghost chili.
Yeah, just drizzle a little chili pepper on that cake.
Ugh.
Oh, man. Cake is an overrated food item.
Cake is... I don't know how I feel about cake. Cake has some... I like red velvet cake.
Red velvet's good.
Red velvet's always good. I like cannoli cake.
You know, the red in red velvet is kind of a lie. Like, there's nothing in red velvet that should give it that color. They just
Yeah,
kind of
it's just for the
food-colored in.
aesthetics part of it. Did you... a lot of people don't know this. The white icing is cream cheese icing.
Really?
Yes.
That, you know, that makes a lot of sense because it does have that sort of consistency.
Mhm.
And it tastes good, so
Yeah.
that's nice.
It's pretty good. How do you feel about cheesecake?
Cheesecake, I kind of love it, but actually there's a little in joke in my family where like each bite is like 4,000 calories or something ridiculous.
Damn.
Yeah, it's obviously exaggerated from the actual truth, but it is like 1,200 calories per slice, and that's like a small little portion.
I made cheesecakes and I used to sell them, and I'm telling you right now, it was at least a bag of sugar per cake, like maybe like
Wow.
like 3 or 4 cups.
Yeah, I
So-
could definitely see that. But it tastes so good, so occasionally it's not the worst thing in the world for you.
Yeah.
It's not an instantaneous heart attack like those Cinnabon creations.
Oh, those are so good.
Yeah, they are, but again, high calories and empty calories too.
Oh, yeah,
I'm not a nutritionist, so I don't actually know entirely what empty calories are,
Ask
but I
people
imagine
in
they're not
people
good.
in the food sciences building would know.
Oh yeah. Is that on Cook Douglas?
Yes, it's a huge building with all the plants in it growing on the walls.
So I should bring one of them on the show and have them talk about food science. Get a little variety.
There you go.
It's the spice of life. He's doing the Salt Bay little hand motion
There
since
you
you
go.
guys can't see it at home.
There you go.
Salt Bay is great.
He's
Like, honestly, he's a very skilled man.
Yeah, he's in like all these rap videos now.
Did you see the video where he cooks a steak and then uses the heat from that steak to cook another steak?
No, I did not see that.
It's insane. He is like someone who puts that kind of effort into what they cook. You have to imagine the food always has to taste good. Like, even if it makes no sense why it would taste good, it does because you cook it that
You
way.
gotta go to his restaurant.
He has a restaurant.
Yeah.
What's it called?
I don't know. I need to go to it.
Is it as seen on Twitter? Like, do they have one of those signs it up front?
Probably, and he's got enough notoriety to probably get one of those.
The YouTube Rewind came out recently. It's terrible. Don't watch it. In fact, you should click on the video, then leave a dislike, and then immediately close out.
Bro, this ain't the Advanced Warfare trailer. Infinite Warfare trailer.
Yeah. Anyhow, so Salt Bae ended up... I don't think he actually appeared, but people imitated him. And also there were a bunch of fidget spinners, as you might guess, even though that trend died out after 2 months.
Bro, that was like the biggest thing in the world for like 2 months.
Yeah, it was.
Everyone
It
had a
was
fidget
ridiculous. How come they got fidget spinners, but they didn't get the 1,000-degree knife trend on the YouTube Rewind?
What's 1,000-degree knife trend?
Alright, apparently it's not as big as I thought it was. But basically, people would like heat up a knife with like a torch and then cut through like a stack of crayons or whatever.
Yeah, it's like there's like that channel that has a hydraulic compressor.
Oh yeah,
and they just compress
hydraulic press too.
Yeah, hydraulic press. There's another one where they superheat like a ball of metal to like that, and they just drop it on things.
Yeah, that's the best kind of content out there. And actually, one of the first examples of that was the show, Is It a Good Idea to Microwave This? They would take some object, and then they'd stick it in the microwave, which it was in its own separate, sanctioned out room.
Yeah.
And they would use a broomstick to reach the buttons, and then microwave the thing, see if the microwave blew up or what happened.
Wow.
And the result, it's like the perfect online content, because you don't really need a good idea to make an episode. You just need an idea. Let's microwave that stapler, for instance. And it'll make a great episode. And people are interested in seeing the results. So, #1 show on the entire website of YouTube. I don't know if they still make them, though.
I don't know either.
Not knowing either. That's our subject, I guess.
All right.
Just as a general little thing, you're not supposed to look at the timer. You're supposed to not know when we're gonna move on to the next topic. So, yeah, it's fine. It was your first time. So anyway, not knowing either. It's tough to wiggle in because you don't know what you don't know.
You don't know what you don't know.
I'm taking epistemology next semester. I'm gonna get into some of those debates.
I mean, I'm taking metaphysics, so it's simple. It's a similar thing.
Yeah, philosophy. As much as people say, "Oh, philosophy degree is never gonna help you get a job," it's pretty interesting. I'm not gonna act like it's the end all be all. I still think math is more interesting than philosophy, and science too. But it's kind of cool, and there's a more mathematical root to it than people think. The stereotype of philosophy is just some guy asking why at everything. Oh, I like cake. Why? Because it tastes good. Why? But the logic system behind philosophical arguments is pretty much I'm not going to say it's math, but it has those sort of STEMmy sort of logical connections in it.
Yeah, it's called rational calculus. That's what they're basically talking about, in a sense.
Rational calculus?
Yeah, it's a term used sometimes in economics, but also in philosophy. It's just it's people's method of reasoning. It's sort of an assumption that people are going through an iterative process in their brains to reach logical conclusions.
All right. Well, I'm glad I know that now. Reasonable calculus.
There you go.
Yeah. Actual calculus still top in my opinion. I can't ever knock that down. Math is just so great. And math degrees are more helpful than people seem to think too.
Well, I feel like people know the importance of the degree in mathematics. It's the problem that people don't want to do the degree in mathematics.
You think? Because I've asked around, and when I say someone's like going into math as their field, they're like, "Oh, what can you do with that degree?" Because the way normal people perceive math, like non-scholarly people, they just see it as a bunch of people calculating like roots of polynomials for years on end, and they don't realize that companies actually do look for math majors all the time.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's that whole meme about, oh, my teacher, they teach us how to find the roots of a polynomial function, but they never teach us how to balance a checkbook. You know why that is? Because balancing a checkbook is so easy to teach yourself. Like, you don't need formal schooling for that. What you need formal schooling for is to have more critical thinking skills and to develop your own academic interests.
Well, I'll answer this question about why people perceive math as this. Because when they teach math, they don't have applications immediately when they show it to you. Most people, when they get shown math, they tell you about this abstract world that these numbers live in. It's like this notion that, there are things out there that have these properties and we're just going to manipulate them in our head. And people aren't satisfied with that as a young age because they can't comprehend what that is. They want to know, what is it related to?
Yeah, I could definitely see that. Like, if you're young, you kind of view the world in concrete terms. And that's why, like, when you learn to add fractions, they say, oh, let's say you cut up a pizza into 6 pieces, and then you cut up a different pizza into 8 pieces. If you add the one slice of the first with one slice of the second, how much pizza is it? That it makes sense to me why a kid wouldn't be able to think in terms of just pure numbers. They need something physical to count and to understand. But at the same time, once you get to the college level, you shouldn't still have that perception. It's a little... Like, you don't need concrete in order to understand something. It can be abstract, and I don't understand how people don't have the ability to think abstractly like that.
Well, it's because partly our education system isn't set up in such a way that it gets us to think abstractly. It's built to make you think along a track, along a set amount of thoughts, and if you stray outside of that, you get criticized and you sort of get ostracized from the group unless you come back to the norm of the subject. Because when actually creative students try to find out new ways and start asking things, they get some of the most half-hearted answers.
Because the teachers don't know.
The teachers don't know.
The teachers only know what's in the curriculum, and sometimes, like, if you get a good teacher, they'll obviously know past that. But a lot of teachers, unfortunately, they don't.
Yeah.
So you end up with the situation where there's a great XKCD comic. I don't know if you've ever heard of XKCD. It's basically this guy, Randall Munroe. He was a former programmer for NASA, and he makes a bunch of stick figure comics about like science, math, technology, romance, movies. It's pretty funny sometimes. Sometimes they're a little lame, but in this one, it's like a set of responses to an intriguing question by students. So the teacher's up there teaching the elementary school model of why a airplane's wing is able to generate lift. Because the air on the top is flowing faster than the air on the bottom or whatever, and then this creates upward lift. And then the student asks, so why are planes able to fly upside down? And then it had a list of 3 possible responses that the teacher could make. One was the good response, in that they say, I actually don't know, this model is very simplified or perhaps even wrong. We should do more investigation into this. The bad response is, well, it's complicated and we don't really have time. That kid's never going to ask a question again if he gets a response like that. And then the very bad response was, Santa Claus is your parents.
What?
So, very abusive teacher, I guess.
I mean, like, I'll give you the classical example. One of the first things they teach you when you're learning basic arithmetic is you can't divide by zero. That's one of the first things. And when you ask a teacher, why can't you divide by zero? They say, you can't. You can't. They don't tell me why I can't. They don't give me any. It was only till the end of pre-calculus when I basically kept pining my teacher, that he finally explained to me why I can't do it.
Yeah. The common response to that is like, try to take this pizza and divide it into 0 pieces. You can't. But that didn't satisfy me either.
No, I want the mathematical reason why I can't do it.
Yeah. And again, with you need to be concrete with it. It's not true. That answer is not satisfactory because it doesn't get to the abstract.
No, you need to be
nature of
concrete
it.
because you're not giving me concrete definitions about what you're talking about.
Like, it's crazy because you'll say, oh, you can't divide a pizza into 0 pieces. That doesn't make sense. But then you go around and ask, okay, so how do partial powers exist? Like, how can you raise 2 to the 2.5th power? And they're able to explain why that's valid, sort of.
There you go.
But it's definitely more abstract. Like, you can't physically picture raising 2 to the 2.5th power. That's a little obscure.
Yeah, that is certainly obscure.
I mean, the closest thing is like if you raise 2 to the 2nd power, you multiply it by itself twice, and then you have that leftover 0.5 power, so you take the square root of 2.
Yeah, that's a bit more involved.
Yeah. But that's not really concrete still. That's still on the abstract side of things.
Yeah.
Like, what is a square root?
What is this? It's just simply an operation.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, one of the things that I actually liked as far as, like, a definition for, like, dividing by 0 was that they said that all the other operations, like multiplication, is just glorified addition.
Yeah.
And then subtraction is, well, division is glorified subtraction. So they say, try subtracting this amount to get to the final amount, which is what you want. So if they just kept subtracting 0, because, well, if you have 36 subtract 0, you have 36. 36 subtract 0, you have 36. That was definitely getting more at the heart of it, like,
Yeah.
at the problem of it. It was only until, though, that they showed me the graph of 1 over x, and they showed me that the two limits as you come in towards the 0 are different, and that's why you can't assign a value to it.
Yeah, definitely. And also what you were saying earlier with the addition is just, or multiplication is just repeated addition. Exponentation is just repeated multiplication, and there's also tetration, which is repeated exponentation. Did you know that?
No.
And then if you just go a little further with it, you could say there's penetration, which is repeated tetration.
Oh my gosh.
And then lastly, we have sexation, which is repeated penetration.
No.
No, I think it's called like pentation or something.
Okay.
But I'm not
Close
wrong.
enough,
Yeah.
Close enough.
There's no real mathematical reason for penetration to exist.
I mean, if you start getting into Calc 3 with 3D objects and holes,
Maybe.
you have a homeomorphic.
Homeomorphic.
I think that's what it's called, the curve of genus 1.
Oh man, I don't even... 3D graphing is just annoying to me because it's just 2D graphing with an extra dimension to it. So you have to do more work to find ultimately the same sort of conclusions. I know that's wrong. If you take like linear algebra, you know that that's not really entirely it.
Yeah.
But at the level I'm at now, 3D graphing is just 2D graphing with an extra dimension, and it's annoying.
Well, yeah, once you start getting up... Well, the reason why mathematicians like to do that is they're like general formulas. They don't want to know about special cases. They don't want to know about the second, the third, the fourth. They want to know n dimensions.
Yeah.
What can I do in n dimensions? Like, how general can I get? Because that's sort of... And a lot of physicists, they're just like, we're only concerned with the specific cases. I feel like there's a hypocrisy in that, because then what's the point of general relativity? What's the point of special relativity? It's a general thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. So if you're concerned, because what they're trying to do right now with string theory is find something that's something so general that it's the foundation of everything else. So if you keep claiming that, the mathematician's only interested in the general, that's a fallacious statement, because the physicist is just interested in the general as the mathematician.
It's funny, the general case is actually a misnomer when you think about it, because, the general case, is if you replace n in the formula, and it still holds true. But that's kind of the more specific when you think about it.
Well, in what way?
In that it covers... Oh, shit. It covers all examples. I got my wires crossed weird there. So never mind. Just disregard. Throw out what I just said. Entirely.
That's alright. Don't worry, I thought I came up with the proof that I found an answer to 1 divided by 0 my first year in pre-calculus.
Oh. What was your answer?
I said it was infinity or some shit like that.
Infinity is a number, apparently, according to that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's interesting because there are certain systems of mathematics where they set it equal to a value. So in certain maths, 1 divided by 0 is 0, 1 divided by 0 is infinity, and in certain ones it's even 1.
It's 1?
Yes,
that's interesting.
It depends on the system you're working in.
I like infinity the best, and here's why. Rise over run, the whole slope thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, okay, if 0 is in the numerator, then it's just a horizontal line. And if you keep raising the numerator higher and higher compared to the denominator, then you get a steeper and steeper line. And eventually, the denominator essentially becomes 0, and you get pretty much a vertical line. Yeah. So it goes all the way up to infinity. All right. And also, the limit approaches infinity from the right side and negative infinity from the left. But because all the values are negative, that's why it's negative infinity. So I personally enjoy the infinity definition the most. That's what ebbs the most with the way I think.
Alright, so what's 0 to the 0?
That's an indeterminate form. It depends on how you got there.
What do you want to say? Is it 1 or 0?
It could be E.
It could be E.
Yeah, it could be. It's indeterminate. It depends on the situation, in other words. It's undefined, don't get me wrong, but the limit as n approaches infinity or 0 of whatever gets you 0 to the 0 power is what you use to determine the actual limit. Ooh, that's an interesting one. Limits. Now, we were just talking about mathematical limits. However, I feel as though we're using just the word limit. We can refer to some other things. What are the limitations of human civilization, knowledge, abilities, whatever?
I don't know. What do you think? What do you think we can't know?
What do you think we can't know? All right, limits of knowledge. That's. I didn't take epistemology yet. Okay.
I took a course in it in high school. It was AP epistemology.
Did you? Our school didn't offer that. Probably wasn't in high demand.
It was a very tough course, but we wrote like 4-page essays 3 times a week. It was crazy, but we talked about a lot of different things. I don't know, the limits of human knowledge. I feel like as far as math goes, it's pushing the limits, and as far as physics goes, it's pushing the limits, but I don't think there's a limit to what we can know about the physical world. I feel like there's a limit to what we can know about ourselves, though.
Yeah, I could see that. That's only true, though, if you believe in that nurture has a big effect and the nature versus nurture, a little dichotomy there. If you're to believe that nature is almost everything, which there's a startling amount of evidence to suggest that that may be true. I'm not going to get into the whole debate about it just yet, because I don't know a lot about it. I'm not a biologist. But if you're to believe that genetics control everything, then there is no limit to the knowledge you could have about yourself. or the limit only exists where our genome sequencing devices can take us.
Well, I mean, do you believe in a deterministic universe?
That's a tough question because on one hand, I feel it's almost impossible to argue against. Like, how can you even argue against there's not free will, that everything is entirely deterministic? Like, show me a valid argument against that.
Because, I mean, people have this notion that if everything is made up of molecules, and
Yeah.
those are made up of atoms, and atoms are made up of quarks, and quarks are made up of leptons and all this other stuff, and you could just go progressively smaller and smaller and smaller. All these things are governed by the rules that we have established within physics. And furthermore, mathematics. So all of them, it's a tiered system, but what they're basically saying is, if we can predict perfectly the motion of planets using our gravitational formulas, if we can predict the motion of galaxies with our formulas and stuff like that, it wouldn't seem to be out of the question that we can predict the movements of living bodies and organisms, because we are simply made up of atoms and we are simply composed of the things that everything else is composed of, just in a particular order.
Yeah, and here's the thing. Even if you think like, oh, the other day I chose chocolate instead of vanilla, which is new, so there's no way anyone could have predicted that. Well, no, because there are molecules and atoms in your brain that are allowing certain electrical signals to pass through it and disallowing others that made you think to choose chocolate. So there's really no way to say for sure that we do have free will. However, on the other hand, I can't live life thinking that I don't have free will. And what I mean by that is, in the context of how I perceive reality, there is just no way that I don't. Like, in a broad sense, yes, I don't have free will. But in a more specific, like, in general, I'm seeing this universe in this reality, like, on an individual level, I still feel like I should live thinking that I have free will.
Do you do that for your own mental health, or do you feel like it is a necessity to think that you have free will?
It's absolutely a necessity to think you have free will. There's a reason everyone feels like they have free will. Like, that's a kind of a biological necessity to some extent. If you don't have free will, then you lose control of yourself, and then all of a sudden you can't eat when you're hungry.
Do you think animals have free will? Do you think that animals think they have free will?
I don't know if animals think they have free will. In fact, I don't know if certain animals think anything. But they're definitely a bit more deterministic than humans. Like, we're able to predict with remarkable accuracy animal behavior versus human behavior. However, obviously, you can extend that to say we can predict human behavior perfectly eventually, which you know, is on the horizon. It's not out of the question.
Oh, no, I don't think it's out of the question at all. I think we need higher forms of mathematics to do with it than calculus. It's got to be something.
We do. Actually, I read something very interesting by, I forget the author, to be completely honest. But it's called The Myth of the Ant Queen, and basically, there are three sort of levels of different objects interacting with each other. On an individual level, you're able to predict perfectly like how the two objects will collide. He used pool balls as a metaphor, so we're going to use pool balls. If you were to fire this pool ball at this angle with this spin, it will always end up with the same result after it hits the other pool ball, and their motion is able to be calculated perfectly. And then there's the broad one. Let's say you have 18 billion pool balls on the table. If you fire one into a crowd, it's very difficult to determine where each individual one will go, but you're able to use statistical models to predict general trends on the board after you hit that ball.
Yeah, that's what they have to do in quantum mechanics, because they can't predict exactly where particles are. They can only tell you the broad area.
Yeah, exactly. And then he argued that there's a third level, and the way it works is these pool balls are each governed by laws, and eventually they'll have an emergent goal, basically, that they accomplish, which obviously happens unconsciously because pool balls can't think. And it seems a lot like the third one, but it's at a smaller scale. So, if we have the computational power, eventually everything will become the first level when you think about it.
Well, then, if everything becomes the first level at some point in time, if we can predict all human behavior, then couldn't we theoretically predict everything that we will do?
You think we can predict the future, in other words?
Yeah.
Like, what? Yeah, once you have the ability to model everything, what's the point of living anymore? You already have spoiled it for yourself.
I mean, yeah, you could just be like, can you tell me my future? Yeah, sure, just give me a few samples of yourself and I can tell you exactly what you'll do tomorrow, the day afterwards, the day after that.
How will I die? That's a scary world to think of.
The interesting thing is, if I told you what you would do tomorrow and exactly what you'd do, would you consciously deviate from it, and would that change what you were doing?
That is a rough question. You know, I feel like maybe it'll be like the whole Oedipus story where the guy tells his parents, oh, this guy's gonna grow up to kill his father and have sex with his mother. And then they say, oh no, we gotta prevent that. So we're gonna leave this baby all alone and we're gonna get our servant to kill him. The servant can't bring himself to do it, so he ends up bringing the baby to this other couple that wants a baby. And then they raise him as their adoptive parents. And eventually he grows up and becomes this great little warlord. So eventually he goes back to where his hometown is. He doesn't know it's his hometown though. And he meets his father on the street and he kills him in a fight. And then he goes to where the queen is and he sort of takes over and he takes the queen for himself and the queen is his mother.
Wow.
Yeah. So in trying to prevent it, they've actually caused it. So maybe it's one of those situations.
Well, I'll give you a better example. Let's just say we get it down to a certain point where we can literally predict crime before it happens. We can tell you that this man is going to rob this bank at this day and this time at this city at this exact moment.
Like Looper?
Yeah, like Looper. Yes, exactly like Looper. We can do Looper. Do we have the right to do Looper?
Is it morally correct?
Is it morally right to kill someone before they've even done something?
That's a rough question. Because on one hand, like, if they were to serial kill 3 people by choking them to death with cereal, I guess. Yeah, hilarious pun. Like, if you don't prevent that, then you're out 3 people for no reason. So you're waiting to punish him actually made the situation worse than it could have been if you just preemptively did it.
Well, the interesting thing is you have to define what is now and what is then. Because if you know that something is going to happen with 100% certainty, then you're basically... It's weird because it's almost like it's already happened and you're stopping something from already happening at that point because you know what's going to happen.
Yeah, at that point, time starts to lose meaning entirely.
Well, yeah, time does lose meaning because we think of time as this straight like arrow that it keeps going forward. It does not stop. Time doesn't go backwards unless you're going at the speed of light in reverse direction. But like time keeps on going straight. So if that's the notion that we have, then if we take a broader look at it, because they say, like, if you're in 3 dimensions, time goes like this. Let's just say if you went into a 4th dimension where time is just this string that you can see right in front of you, then that's already happened. It's already there. It's not like that. Everything is present at once. So you're sort of just clipping out a bit of the present.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's very odd to think about. And if you think about it, like, from a spatial dimension perspective, let's say there were a bunch of 2D objects. They see the world as a line, and if you were to, like, put your hand through the plane on which they exist, they would see it pop into existence suddenly, and they wouldn't understand, like, what direction it's coming from. They only have 2 directions, left and right.
Yeah.
So if there's a 4th spatial dimension, then, like, they could reach in from a direction that we don't even know exists. We can't even like think conceptually of this direction, but they can still like move through it, a four-dimensional being. So time is a little bit, it's one-dimensional in our like perception of it. So maybe there is a second dimension of time, and how would that work?
Well, if you went down, I'm guessing time increases per dimension as you go up past a certain one. So if you're in 2, it's 1. If you're in if you're in 3, it's 1. 2 has nothing, and 1 has nothing. So that means when you go to 4, it's 2 because you can perceive it as a flat thing.
So you 2 dimensions down is what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, haven't you seen like Interstellar?
No, I haven't.
Oh, so there's a scene like at the very end of the movie, he gets like sucked into a black hole or something, and like all of time is before him, and he's like pulling bits out and manipulating it in this new dimension that he's in.
And what are the results?
Like, he basically creates the situation that was at the very start of the movie, which will lead to saving humanity.
Oh, okay. Maybe I should watch that movie. I've heard good things.
Yeah, it was really good.
I've heard bad things too. Like apparently there's a scene where the sound editing is so bad that the music overpowers the dialogue completely.
I mean, yeah, it's a great soundtrack though, because Hans Zimmer, like you'd rather listen to Hans Zimmer than whatever dialogue's happening.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Music is great. I love music.
It is good. What kind of music do you listen to?
I listen to basically old music, like any oldie but goldie, I listen to it.
Like Frank Sinatra?
Yeah, but not really that. More like AC/DC, Aerosmith, that kind of like.
Aerosmith.
I like music that's like bombastic and has a lot of personality to it. I don't like
Def Leppard.
Yeah, I love Def Leppard actually. I don't like music that's like. All right, perfect example. So there's this album called "In the Court of the Crimson King," by King Crimson, and it's a great album. 4 of the 5 songs are excellent. The 5th song, "Moonlight," is like, all right. So it starts off with this little melody on a couple instruments that's not even like that great, and then for the whole rest of the 11 minutes. It's like one doot from an instrument every 7 seconds, and it's completely absurd that anyone even can enjoy that. But a bunch of King Crimson fans are going to be like, oh no, that's the deepest part of the music. Listen, if it's like barely even music, then how can you enjoy it? And how it's not deep. You're faking it being deep. It just sucks. That's a blemish on an otherwise great album.
Well, I mean, speaking of things that suck, do you appreciate terrible movies?
Well, that's completely different than terrible music.
I mean, some people could appreciate terrible music.
Alright, so I guess terrible music and lacking music. I guess terrible music is our 4th topic for today.
Okay.
But terrible music and slow, lacking in the quality of being music are 2 entirely different things.
So what's the worst song you've ever heard?
The worst song I've ever heard. There's this song by Death Grips called Guillotine.
I've heard of Death Grips. I think they're awful.
Yeah, honestly, like, yeah, they're bad.
Yeah, like everyone raves about how like edgy and crazy they are, but I listened to a Death Grips album once, and like you only hear like the background stuff going on. No one sings until like 5 minutes in.
Yeah, people will eat it up. People love it.
I mean, have you heard of the amazing rapper Chief Keef?
Chief Keef is different though than
How is he different?
Okay, so Chief Keef, I feel like even though he's not the brightest flower in the little, what do you call it, a bouquet?
Yeah.
He knows that what he's doing is completely ridiculous and his lyrics don't mean anything. So what he does is he creates like a decent beat and he just screams over it, and it's kind of fun in a way because he sort of understands that it's not supposed to be like deep, meaningful music. He just wants to have fun with it.
Hey, I'm sorry. Okay, so you had Back from the Dead too. Back from the no, not Back. That's what I'm going. Back from the Dead was fine. You know, it sounded good and everything, and he had some earlier tracks that he put on YouTube, which made him famous. He drops Back from the Dead too, one of the worst albums ever created.
Like, it doesn't even sound good.
No, it's so bad.
I haven't listened to it.
Oh, it's an hour and a half of pure pain. Like he mixed all of the music. He made all the beats. He made all the lyrics.
He doesn't seem talented enough to do that.
I mean, it shows. It really shows. Like,
I don't know. Okay, so I understand Chief Keef, like, on a broad level. I've only heard a couple of his songs, though. I don't really listen to hip-hop at all. I don't even listen to music much in general, to be quite honest.
no.
I discussed this in episode 6, but like, I never set time specifically aside to, like, listen to music. I've actually done it a couple times in college because, like, what else am I gonna do?
I mean, I feel like music's more of a passive thing. Like, you'll listen to it while you're walking.
Yeah, like in the background, right?
Yeah, you'll listen to it while you're doing something. You don't, like, very rarely, unless you're, like, some sort of musician and you really just want to bask in, like, the different levels of each track. Like,
Or Anthony Fantano.
Yes!
Internet's #1 music critic.
Anthony Fantano.
Yeah, obviously he has to sort of sit down and just listen to the music.
I like his meme review channel more.
It got taken down. Did you know about that?
Really? What happened?
Yeah, so basically YouTube demonetized every single video on the channel, like, at once, and he decided, you know what, I'm done with this, so he deleted the channel.
What? Oh, man.
I know, it was the biggest disappointment of my whole week.
His review of the Dat Boy meme.
The Dat Boy meme review. Oh my god, and he left us on a cliffhanger in the meme review because he reviewed deep fried memes, and then he got transported to the deep fried dimension where everything was trying to kill him, and we never know how he got out because he's not continuing the series anymore.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh man, that sucks. Yeah, I really like this channel. He did a lot of good music reviews. He reviewed this one, like, Corey Feldman album called Rockadelic/Funkadelic.
What?
Yeah,
That's a name.
Yeah, it was pretty awful. That one was really bad. He did a live review of it where he literally sat down and just played every song off the album, like bits of it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
But bad movies are a whole nother level. Alright, so #1 Christmas movie of all time is called Santa's Summer House. Let me tell you a thing or two about this movie. I feel like I've already told you about it.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, but basically, if you don't know, it stars some people I've never heard of, and they're action movie stars from the 90s.
Of course.
And they end up stranded on the road because their driver fell asleep or something. I forget exactly how it happened. But basically, they're stranded in the greatest possible location. It's the summer house where Santa Claus spends his summers. So they end up, like, going in and looking for people to help, and then Santa and Mrs. Claus, who they don't know are Santa and Mrs. Claus yet because they don't look like it, they say, oh, you can just stay here for a little bit.
What?
So they end up, like, having the best vacation ever or whatever, and the family is in distress, but through the power of the magic of the abilities of Christmas, they all reconvene and have a jolly old time, even though it's not even Christmas, it's summer. And there's a scene in the middle where they play croquet for a solid 12 to 15 minutes. No dialogue, they're just laughing and having a good time playing croquet.
Croquet.
For 10 to 15 minutes. I forget exactly how long it was.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, if you haven't seen it, go find a way to watch it. I think it's on demand. I looked on the Pirate Bay and it's not there.
The Pirate Bay.
Not that I pirate anything. Don't do that. But yeah, I looked and it's not there. Nobody's uploaded it. Nobody felt the need to upload the greatest Christmas movie of all time.
Have you seen The Room?
Yes, of course I've seen The Room.
Alright then. How do you feel about Mr. Wiseau's acting skills?
You know what? I guess it wouldn't be much of a stretch to call him the greatest actor of all time.
I mean, I've never seen someone put such raw emotion.
He puts so much passion into his work, and it's so evident. Almost to the point where it makes the scene look ridiculous, I would say.
I mean, like, that scene where Lisa was tearing him apart.
So many quotable moments.
So many the flower
The flower shop scene. Oh my god.
The flower shop scene. I mean, the fact that they're throwing footballs with tuxedos on all the time.
Oh man.
I mean, how do you feel about Mark? I feel like Mark did him wrong.
Mark did him so dirty.
I mean, yeah.
How do you feel about The Disaster Artist? The James Franco
have you seen
movie.
It?
No, I haven't seen
like,
it.
I haven't seen it either. I've heard some good things about it. I heard some bad things about it because they're basing it off the book that was written called The Disaster Artist, which was based on the movie. So, yeah, Greg Sestero wrote it. And from what I've heard, he does a great Tommy Wiseau impression.
James Franco?
Yeah.
That's the first thing everyone says.
Yeah.
Like, James Franco's Tommy Wiseau is just the best.
Exactly.
Most accurate.
And then you have his brother Dave Franco playing Greg Sestero, who I don't know. Like, a good criticism of the movie that I heard is, why didn't they just get Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero to actually just be in the movie?
Yeah, they probably would have wanted to do it.
Yeah, I know. Like, it's more screen time for both of them, and they're going to get money from it. And then, I don't know, James Franco could have directed it or something.
One complaint that I've heard was, you know how in the actual the room, all the scenes are dubbed?
Yes.
And it's, like, very noticeable?
They took out the dubbing.
Yeah, that's not a thing in The Disaster Artist for some reason.
Exactly.
Like, it's kind of weird.
It's the shittiness of it.
Yeah.
That makes it fun.
Exactly. And they go through painstaking lengths to recreate these scenes.
Yes.
But they forget the most important part, which is the terrible dubbing.
They did too good of a job at making a movie bad.
Yeah.
And I think that's the problem with it, because when you try to recreate a terrible scene, you literally have to tell everyone on set, you have to do an awful job. And you have to mimic their awful job.
Right, but in doing that, they're doing a good job when you think about it.
They're doing a good job at imitating something that is bad.
But they're not making something that's bad. Bad is spontaneous. It's in the moment.
Well, in the case of The Room, it's what made it good, because it was made it funny. Like, all those moments where things were clearly not said by the actors. Like, it clearly was done in post.
Yeah.
But, like, that's what made it funny. It's sort of like Samurai Cop, if you've seen Samurai Cop.
I know what it is. I've
Yeah,
never
Samurai Cop,
actually watched it.
So what happened was, a lot of the people left the movie, like, after it was filmed, and he had to go back and post, and he had to redo a lot of the voices himself, so he put, like, a little warble effect over his voice.
What?
And he put on, like, fake accents to mimic, like, that of a Chinese person, that of a Japanese person, because there are a lot of different minorities or people in the movie.
Oh my gosh. I need to watch that now.
Oh, yeah. The second one, they made a sequel to it called Samurai Cop 2, has Tommy Wiseau in it as the main villain.
Oh my gosh.
He's a samurai master.
Samurai Cop. That could be like the concept for the greatest action movie of all time, and it just wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty great in its own respects, but, like, it could have certainly been more than what it was.
I love, MST3K, right?
What's that?
Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Okay, yeah, Mystery Science Theater 3000.
Yeah, that's my spirit animal right there.
I love that show. I mean, there was one episode I watched where they used cardboard boxes as the backgrounds on set. And the guy made
Oh my gosh.
And he was being chased around. He's like, I guess we're boxed in on cardboard. Like, it was just some of the worst.
I love doing that sort of thing to movies, though. Like, watching it and then just cracking some jokes about it. Yeah. That's what I did with Santa's Summer House. That's why I found it so enjoyable.
Exactly. And it's actually, they did a study on it. People who enjoy shitty movies actually are a bit more intelligent. And it actually brings people more together, because they sort of bond over, like, the shittiness of it.
One phenomenon that will probably never come about ever again in human history was Rocky Horror Picture Show.
What is that?
So Rocky Horror Picture Show is this 1970s musical that sort of parodies a lot of sci-fi and fantasy works at once. So basically, this couple, Brad and Janet, they get married, or they get engaged, excuse me. They're not married yet. And they try to go to their old high school teacher's house to tell him that. And they end up getting a flat tire, and they end up stranded at this mansion. And the mansion happens to be the home to Dr. Frank N. Furter, who is creating a human being from scratch, who is supposed to be his perfect sex toy. And I'll just leave it at that. But it's the best movie of all time, question mark?
Is that
It's actually, no, the dialogue is so cheesy, but it's on purpose. It's not like bad cheesy dialogue. It's purposely cheesy dialogue, and it's hilarious. The music is incredible. Absolutely one of the best musical soundtracks of all time. Meatloaf is in it. You know who Meatloaf is? Yeah, he is in the movie as Eddie. We could watch it like once we're done this. I have it on my laptop downloaded.
Oh my gosh, I gotta get my calculus done.
Oh yeah, after that though.
Yeah.
Well, actually, do you want to go to Livingston to eat?
Eat right now?
No. After the podcast.
Oh yeah, sure. We could go there.
Yeah, and then we'll head back, do your homework, and then watch Rocky, and then call it a night.
Yeah.
That's our plan. Making plans on the spot, on the show.
Sounds legit, man. Sounds legit.
All right. So, back to bad movies, I guess. Are there any other like really bad movies that you want to recommend to people?
Oh man, I'm trying to think of some. I mean, you got that. You got Sarah, The Room.
The Neil Breen movies.
Yes, Fateful Findings. The first one, well, Pass Through is another good one. Then you have I Am Here Now.
Oh yeah, it's like there's like a period in the middle.
3 periods. You have to put the pause. And then after I Am Here Now, you got the first one, which I can't remember the name of now. It has hacking computers, all the stuff.
Obviously it has hacking computers.
No, it's really breaking computers.
Okay, where does he get all these laptops from?
I mean, they're pretty cheap. They're like from the 90s.
I know, and they probably don't work, but again, how does he have so many? Does he just buy them in bulks of 10,000 every time?
eBay for sure. Like, they definitely have it on there. He probably gets it free from trash cans and stuff like that, like around his place. No, the question is, where did he get that Ferrari from?
Oh my god!
Is that his Ferrari, or did he
borrow it from a friend?
Now he did admit to being a person who sold real estate and was an architect, so I'm assuming he has some money. So maybe it is his Ferrari. But if you remember in Fateful Findings, he was hit by a Rolls Royce.
Is that his Rolls Royce?
I don't know. I don't know if that is.
You gotta wonder.
Yeah, like how much money does Neil Breen have?
Do you want to tell about how he responded to you?
Yes, I sent a Facebook message to Neil Breen on Facebook, and I asked him why were all the things in Fateful Findings crazy. And to start, there was a moving antler head that suddenly moved. There was a box that magically turned into a mushroom. And inside of, a mushroom a mushroom.
You finish your story.
A mushroom that turned into a box with a rock in it that brings people back to life.
Of course.
And I mean, what else can I say about it? There was a book, and there were points of the movie where he would just be zapped into this room with trash bags as the background, and he'd be reading a book naked. So I sent him, what does this all mean? And he sent me the great message of, it's what you wanted to.
And what was the delay again?
It's for you to discover. The delay was about a month and a half.
A month and a half.
He's
going through month and a half old Facebook messages.
Yes, he's got a lot of people to respond to.
Yeah, you're right. If you haven't seen a Neil Breen movie, and maybe you don't feel like watching one, I recommend you do. But at least watch the scene at the end of
Fateful Findings. It's free on YouTube.
Oh, is it really?
Yes, the whole
Okay, never mind. Watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
But the last scene where all the politicians kill themselves.
The politician scene.
It's just the best scene in cinema history.
You just have him just standing clearly on a green screen background, because that's clearly green screen. And then he has the stock footage of the media press day when they're in front of the White House. And then on top of that, he has these people who he clearly got off the street. And then they're just like, I'm resigning as president of the bank. No, the best one was the guy who just threw a rope over a sling and was like...
Yeah, honestly, what a masterpiece. Anyhow, this, I feel, was a really great episode. The beginning was heavy intellectual discussion,
yes.
And the end was light intellectual discussion about bad movies.
Yes.
So it's a little bit of everything for everyone. And you were a pretty good co-host, one of my best so far. Yeah. I have like a new one every week, sometimes 2 new ones every week, so you being pretty high up there, even if you're in the top 3, you're better than like 12 other people. So
wow.
that's a high compliment, don't worry.
There you go.
Yeah. And anything else you want to plug? Do you have like a Twitter you want people to follow, or?
I mean, I did have a YouTube page, but I haven't been making videos for it in so long. If you search Empire or Andy Warhol's Empire on YouTube, I am the video that reviewed that movie.
No way, you did movie reviews?
I am the top, I'm the 3rd response. If you type in Andy Warhol Empire, I'm the 3rd option that pops up.
What's the name of your channel, just so they know?
I think it's just Charles Rodriguez, but if you want to, yeah, it's just Charles Rodriguez. There's my, right there, Andy
Wow.
Warhol. 3rd option. Been getting views ever since then.
All right. So definitely subscribe to him. Follow at WWWTAA Show on Twitter. That's the initials for the show. What were we talking about again? And then the word show. And follow me on Twitter if you could find my account. It's pretty much just my name, so it shouldn't be that hard. I don't want to give away the @ though, because then, that's too easy. You got to give them a little challenge.
Yeah, for sure.
And if that's all you have to say, any closing thoughts, anything you want to clarify about something you said, that's kind of an important step. Like maybe you didn't put something away that you should have, or I don't know. Listen, I thought you did pretty well and you were clear in everything you said, but if you wanted to clarify something, that's all I'm saying.
I mean, hey, I'm pretty content about what we've said today.
Okay, yeah, me too this time. Usually I have like some sort of, I didn't mean this entirely, but this time around I don't really.
Yeah.
So, this has been, what were we talking about again? Oh, I always forget this. What were the 4 topics that we discussed today? Can you remember them?
The 4 topics that we discussed today. Damn, man. Okay, we talked about music. We talked about bad music.
Yeah.
And then from there we went... we started off where? I mean,
do you remember my vignette that I gave?
Oh, we talked about the apple.
Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about the worm and the apple.
Uh-huh.
And then I think we did some bad movies, but that was under...
The bad music. That was after
Limit.
bad
We
music.
did Limit.
Yeah.
We did
remember
Limit.
that one.
We did Limit.
That was the second one, I think.
And then, and then the last one was the music one. Yeah, so those are the 3 I remember.
Yeah, I don't remember the 4th one either.
Yeah.
But that just shows you, you never know where a conversation's gonna go, and in the end, you never know where it had been going, I guess. The tenses there were off, but it's okay.
Yeah.
This has been What Were We Talking About Again. Thank you so much for listening. Your support means a lot to me, and I'm glad people are getting enjoyment out of this. I'll see you guys on the next episode. I got This Is What We're Talking About, the spin-off of the show, in the works. It should be coming out next week. So I hope you guys listen to that as well. And thank you very much.